Hello, viewers. Welcome to Disease Reversal and Mitigation Studio. We are grateful to God for granting us a beautiful and a blessed day, and also the opportunity to be able to discuss very important health matters. Today, we'll be looking up on the devil's signature in causing death. We will be discussing three major mechanisms the devil uses to cause total destruction. And these are deception, slow burning, and eventually destruction. The same mechanisms are utilized by snake poison in causing death. We have references in Genesis 3, verse 1 following to confirm these three mechanisms. And we are told, now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the land which the God had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, You shall not eat of every tree of the garden? Now this is where deception starts, because the woman is convinced through this temptation that she's going to be like God, knowing good and bad. And once she's deceived, then she enters into a trap of slow death and eventually destruction. The organisms used by the devil as a medium of his cunningness was a dazzling, amazing creature, beautiful from its creation. It is described by inspired writings in PP 53.4 thus: that the serpent was then one of the wisest and most beautiful creatures on the earth. It had wings and while flying through the air presented an appearance of dazzling brightness, having the color and brilliancy of burnished gold. Resting in the rich laden branches of the forbidden tree and regaling itself with the delicious fruit, it was an object to arrest the attention and delight the eye of the beholder. Thus, in the garden of peace lurked the destroyer, watching for his prey. Unfortunately, the prey was our first parents. They wandered after this beast because it was dazzling and it was beautiful. In prophecy, also, we have a beast which Christians may wander after as we approach the second coming of Jesus Christ. So, wandering after the beast will cause deception, and deception will lead to slow death and eventually destruction. So let's come to the physical reality. You've heard of zoonotic diseases, and these are diseases thought to cause a global pandemic. They are said to come as a result of bacteria, viruses, parasites that are transmitted from animals to humans. Now, this may not be true because having been created from the same material as other organisms, we expect a disease or an infectious agent that is causing a disease in humans to also cause a disease in those other organisms. So, any zoonotic disease must first of all be witness causing disease and death among the organisms it is originating from. That is the only way we can confirm and we can know that that disease will cause human disease. But there's an element of truth when it comes to eating dead and diseased organisms. If you read in the book PH 026 1.3, there's a fungal apocalypse that will be pronounced upon the earth. As transgression becomes almost universal, God will cause a curse to become as broad and as deep as the transgression. So, did you ever imagine of what the Lord would do to make a global or a universal disease? Then it's by allowing the use of meat. And in this case, disease is contracted by the use of meat. The diseased flesh of these dead carcasses is sold in the marketplaces, and disease among men is the sure result. So you cannot eat an animal until it is dead. And this is where fungal infections come from, because fungus loves diseased and dead tissues. So all diseases mentioned in the Bible that affected the Egyptians and were pronounced to be a curse on Israelites among those who disobeyed God, these diseases came as a result of uncleanness, either by eating animal tissues that were diseased or that were dead. So if you read in Deuteronomy 28 verse 15, God tells us that it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments. So this simply means if we disobey the way Eve disobeyed as a result of deception, then what will happen? In Deuteronomy 28 verse 22 we are told, the Lord shall smite thee with an extreme burning, and with a sword, and with blasting, and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish. So if we are deceived into disobeying God, the Lord will smite us with extreme burning. So this is the second mechanism of destruction, extreme burning. And this is coming as a result of infections, either from infected wounds or uncleanliness as a result of this blasting or dehydration, where there's a drought, we are not able to get water, both for internal use and external use, and the sure result will be a mildew, which comes as a result of uncleanliness, and eventually we are going to perish, which is total destruction. So the mechanism of death by fungal illnesses is the same mechanism of death by the devil and the same mechanism by snake venom. It starts with an insidious start of the disease, that's deception, and then we have burning, extreme burning, and eventually we have total destruction. That is why in Haggai chapter 2 verse 17 God says, I'll smote thee with blasting and with mildew. So mildew is preceded by blasting or dehydration. Where we have lack of water, when we have lack of water, animals die, we have carcasses in the field, we don't have water to clean ourselves, and then the resultant effect will be a fungal infection. We have examples of diseases as a result of uncleanliness that affected the Egyptians and ended up affecting the rebellious people. This is cancer and syphilis. In one case, in 1 Samuel 5, chapter 9, verse 9, we are told, therefore they carried the ark of God of Israel about. So the Philistines took the ark of God and hid it. So God smote the city. Men, small and great, were hit with emeralds, and the emeralds occurred in the secret parts. So this was a cancerous tumor that started in the secret parts, and they continued to hide it as long as it was not big enough, until it could not be hidden anymore. So that is the time they realized we need to let out the ark of God back to Jerusalem. There's also another disease called syphilis that God will smite the Egyptians with, and later the rebellious people among the Israelites. So in Deuteronomy 28 verse 27, we are told, the Lord will smite thee with the botch of Egypt, with the emeralds, and with the scarp, and with the itch whereof they can't be healed. So this is syphilitic disease, which starts without symptoms and then continues to burn, forming ulcers on the body. Eventually, it causes total annihilation or destruction of the body. So this is characteristic of all fungal illnesses, leprosy, and this is also characteristic of sin and the devil. It starts insidiously and then eats away the frame, eventually causes total destruction. So Jesus described perfectly this mechanism by the devil in John 10:10, where he says, the thief cometh not, but for to steal, kill, and destroy. I am come that they might have life and have it more abundantly. So this verse contrasts how Jesus inspires life and how the devil causes total destruction. It starts by stealing, which is deception, and then killing. The word kill here means immolate, which is to burn for sacrifice, to burn as a sacrifice. And the word is described by the following adjectives. It is slow, painful, purposeful, and selfish death. So after the devil has deceived you, he will cause you to die slowly as if you're being burnt, such as a sacrifice. And eventually, we have total destruction, which is annihilation of both body and the spirit. And the word destruction is described perfectly in Matthew 10:28, where it says, "But rather fear him which is able to destroy both soul and body in hell." So the term destruction here has the same meaning as the word destroy in John 10:10. So the devil will steal away your mind, then he will cause you to die slowly as if by burning for sacrifice, and then complete destruction. Now, there are two objects that disguise snake venom. Four places where snake venom can be hidden, and they can be deceptive because you don't know whether they contain this venom or this poisonous material. It's the head of the snake, is the tail of the snake, it is the harlot's reproductive organs and drug vials. So let's consider the snakes. The snake has two body parts that harbor snake poison. That's the head and the tail. The head contains the actual venom, where we have the fangs that are used to eject the venom into its victim. But the tail of the snake, which is used to lure, it wiggles to attract the prey, also contains a poisonous material because it is under the tail where we have the cloaca, or the reproductive organ. The reproductive organ of the snake is a combination of three excretory mechanisms: the rectum, the urinary system, and also the reproductive system. And we have the three materials combining there to form a very poisonous and foul-smelling material. I'll not tell you the reason why we have the foul-smelling material in the cloaca of the snake. But before we get there, let's see how God trained Moses to handle venomous snakes. So in Exodus 4, from verse 2 to 4, we are told, "The Lord said unto him, What is that in thine hand? And he said, A rod. And he said to him, Cast it on the ground. And he cast it on the ground, and it became a serpent, and Moses fled from before it." So Moses was justified to run away from the snake because it was a poisonous snake. But if this happened in Egypt when he encountered the magicians who would have converted their rods into snakes, it would have been embarrassing to God for Moses to run away. So God had to train him in advance how to handle venomous snakes. And he told him in verse 4 to hold the snake by the tail. So we are supposed to subdue the snake on the tail. This is the deceptive part. And we can hold the tail tight and then fling it, cause drowsiness, and then hit it to kill it. But the work of crushing the head of the snake is entitled to the Son of God. He has the ability to crush the serpent's head. We have the ability to depress the snake and to depress its deception by holding it on the tail. So the two parts of the snake are described in Isaiah 9, verse 15, where we are told, "The ancient and honorable, he is the head, and the prophet that teacheth lies, he is the tail." So the tail of the snake represents deception, whereas its head represents intimidation, honor, and power. So in Revelation 12, verse 4, we are told the tail of the dragon, which is a big snake, drew a third part of the stars of heaven. So the dragon used its tail to deceive a third of the angels of God and cast them to the earth. And then the dragon, which is a big snake, stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered for to devour her child as soon as it was born. So this is what we know from this dragon. That when a woman is giving birth, she is lying down on a subdued position, helpless. And it was likely that the devil or the dragon had an advantage to inflict his poisonous bite on the head of the baby, because the baby is supposed to be born head first. But God could not have allowed that, because the prophecy of Genesis 3:15 could not have been fulfilled, that it is the seed of the woman that was to crush the serpent's head. So God took away the child to his bosom, and the dragon was not able to inflict his poisonous bite. But of importance is to know that the two body parts of the dragon or the serpent has been used in Revelation 12, verse 4. So the mechanism of death by envenomation is primarily by knocking out first the nervous system, rendering the victim unconscious, and then the poison inflicted will continue to digest all the rest of the body parts, causing organ failure, the failure of all systems, and eventually when the victim goes unconscious, the snake will destroy him by swallowing him together with all body parts, and that is what it means by complete annihilation. So the three mechanisms play themselves again. That is taking out or knocking off, meaning deception, and then burning the snake poison. Eventually, we have complete annihilation or destruction. So, what is contained in the snake venom? Snake venom contains between 50 to 100 proteins that are mainly digestive enzymes that are very toxic. So how does the snake concentrate snake venom? It is by the diet that God assigned to aid after the curse. So the origin of the snake venom, it's in the dietary change. So in Genesis 3:14, we are told, the Lord God said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and dust shalt thou eat of all the days of thy life. So after the curse, the snake was no longer to eat living food. He was to consume dead matter. And how do you know it's dead matter? The same word used for dust is used in Genesis 3:19, where the Bible says, in the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread till thou return unto the ground, for out of it was thou taken, and for dust thou art, speaking of Adam. So God looks unto Adam 930 years later, when he is a dead body, and he uses the word dust, the same word which is meant for the food of the snake. So please note that the snake is not consume the ground, because the ground is the nutrients after conversion of the dead material. So it is supposed to consume the rotting material, which is dust. So once it is converted and returns to the ground, that is no longer food for the snake. So that is how the serious this curse is. That the snake, as opposed to Adam, who is consuming living bread, will no longer consume living food. You'll be consuming rotting substances. And this is what makes the poison of the snake to become concentrated and lethal. Human beings are not supposed to consume dead food, because that will turn their enzymes and their body tissues toxic. And that is how disease are going to come. So anytime you're eating flesh, you're consuming a dead biological material, which is poisonous to your system. You will never eat flesh until it is dead. So you're behaving like a snake. So of importance is to know that the snake has been made one of organisms or microorganisms that is supposed to convert rotting substances into dust. That is a serious curse. It is not supposed to consume the ground and is not supposed to consume living food, only rotting biological materials. And for that reason, its reproduction was changed. After the curse, the cloaca, which is the reproductive area of the snake, combines with the rectum and the snake's urinary system, so that we have the excreta from the rectum and from the bladder combining in the reproductive area. That makes that area to be foul-smelling and toxic, because dead matter will form poison. And you wonder how snakes mate. Because of the curse, mating has also been made difficult, because the mating snake has to put up with the foul-smelling material in the snake's cloaca. But that came as a result of the curse. And the combination of these three areas can also happen among prostitutes. And what do we call this? Rectovagina and anorectal fistulas. How do they happen? Because of rough and vigorous sexual activity among prostitutes, because of excess inflammation, what we call vaginitis, the physical trauma as a result of that, the infections coming as a result of sexual excesses, and the mechanical friction, and also the chemical irritation, will cause the three parts to adhere together, sometimes forming a fistula, or we have the rectum and the urethra. Once the area is inflamed, drawing closer to the reproductive area, and therefore the excreta from the rectum and from the bladder will be discharged into the reproductive part, making that area to be foul-smelling. And because of the foul-smelling nature and the mixing of foreign material from different men, it forms a very poisonous material similar to snake poison. Diseases such as syphilis, cervical cancer, and abscesses in the reproductive area come as a result of those sexual excesses. And those who might have witnessed people who are suffering from cervical cancer, they have a foul-smelling odor of very poisonous material in their reproductive area. This is as a result of sexual excesses. And this may happen also to prostitutes. So if you read Revelation 17, we have been given a description of a woman who has been prostituting with the kings of the earth and has to use decorations and strong perfumes to cover the filth of her fornication. This woman has the same material in her reproductive area, just like snake venom. That is why I say there are four areas where you can find snake venom, or this poisonous material, which is a mixture of male biological material and with the injury that come as a result of sexual excesses of this woman and the men. That area may also discharge excreta from the rectum and from the bladder, leading to a material that is as poisonous as snake venom. So the four objects we said are the head of the snake, the tail of the snake, the reproductive area of this harlot, and the drug vials, which we'll be discussing later. So we have been given a description of the sin of fornication. We are told in 1 Corinthians 6:18 that flee fornication, every sin that a man doeth is without the body, but he that committeth fornication sinneth against his own body. So fornication will lead to destruction of the mind as well as destruction of the body together. And this is where diseases like syphilis, cervical cancer, and abscesses come from the reproductive area, because sexual excesses will cause destruction of the body together with the mind. So if you read in Judges 16, verse 19, we are told that Delilah, which is an example of the prostitute in Revelation 17, made Samson to sleep upon her thighs, and then she called for a man. She caused him to shave off the 7 locks of his head, and then she began to afflict him, and his strength went from him. So in this case, we are told Samson was made to sleep on the thighs of the woman. So that is called deception. After deception, he is afflicted. So once the locks of hair are cut, he is afflicted, eventually he is destroyed. So that in Judges 16 verse 20 we are told the Philistines are upon Samson, and as he wakes out of his sleep or deception, he says that I will go out just like other times. But he had forgotten that the Lord had departed from him. So he suffered destruction as a result of deception first, then affliction, and then destruction. The same mechanisms of death as earlier described. So I'll give you an example of actually what happens in real life cases. For example, on your screen is a picture of prostitutes. And as they prostitute themselves the whole night, they are catching filth from all sorts of men. These are foreign pathogens, and because cleaning is inadequate, we will have foul-smelling material at different stages of rotting, which will cause very toxic substance similar to snake venom. But for these women to attract, then it means they have to use perfumes, they have to expose their body parts to attract men. But little do men know that these women are harboring poisonous material in their reproductive area, similar to snake venom. So for any man who engages with these women, he is likely to contract or to be burnt, leading to diseases such as syphilis, cancer of the penis, or other diseases that will destroy their fertility. So that is how poisonous those materials are. And that is why prostitutes have been associated with burning diseases. And the mechanism is the same. So they will lure you and then burn you, and then eventually they destroy you. So that is perfectly described in Proverbs 6 verse 24, 25 all the way down to 32. It starts with the luring of a strange woman. She uses the flattery of her tongue. Verse 25, we are told that last not after her beauty in thine hearts, neither let her take thee with her eyes. So the woman starts by deceiving. After deceiving, she takes you to the cauldron of burning. So in verse 27, we are told that can a man take fire in his bosom and his clothes not be burned? Verse 28, can one go upon hot coals and his feet not be burned? So the destruction that the man is going to face by touching this woman or engaging in fornication with her is described as burning. So the disease you get will burn you. And eventually, in verse 32, we are told, whosoever committeth adultery with a woman lacketh understanding. He that doeth it destroys his own soul. So the woman will destroy you in the end. So the same mechanisms: deception, burning, and destruction. Those are the mechanisms of the devil. It's the devil's signature in causing total destruction. So on your screen, we have a snake that is beguiling because it appears beautiful, but then do not forget the poison in the head and the poison in the tail. Of importance to note here is the snake was condemned to move on the ground. It is not so nowadays because it has lifted itself up, is now used as an object of worship. The medical symbol for healing is a snake that is entwined on a rod, and it's in the active mode with a protuberant tongue in the very mode of injecting snake poison. Interestingly or ironically, the Hippocratic Oath believes or states that fasts do no harm. But you'd find it ironical because the snake is in the active mode of attacking and inflicting a poisonous bite. But then the oath says first, do no harm. So you are telling a snake that is poisonous not to harm. It is its nature. It is going to harm. Now, the devil was condemned in form of the serpent to walk on the ground, to crawl on its belly on the ground. But today you are going to find the devil has climbed all the way up into the heads of kings. So this is a symbol of a cobra on the Pharaoh who is the king in Egypt. So they wear the crown in the form of a cobra, which is a poisonous snake. And this is the way the devil has found himself on the heads of kings. He is ruling the kings. For that reason, the prostitute in Revelation 17 has fornicated with all the kings of the earth. So the devil wants to be worshipped from a higher place. Now, let's take this illustration in the wilderness and let's see the three mechanisms playing themselves out. In Numbers 21, verse 5 and verse 6, we are told, and the people spake against God and against Moses, wherefore have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there is no bread, neither is there any water, and our soul loathes this light bread. And then verse 6, and the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and much people of Israel died. So what we are told is that the people rebelled against God in the wilderness. There was starvation, there was drought, there was poor sanitation because there was no water. And because of the drought and starvation, animals died. And these carcasses became food for the snakes. I told you that when snakes eat carcasses, they concentrate their poison. Now, with the fact that there was no water, snakes will concentrate poison if they eat carcasses and fail to drink water. So, this will cause very poisonous bites. And the nature of the bites is described as fiery. Fiery because it causes high fevers, burning. So the snake poison burns the tissue and eventually causes death and then destruction. So the three mechanisms still are playing themselves out. That is, you get a bite and then it takes you out, and then the poison starts to burn you, and eventually it destroys you. The snake will eat you, will swallow you, and cause total destruction. Now, of importance is, why do you think that the devil provides snake poison in times of starvation and drought? Instead of providing something that is useful, he provides something that is poisonous. Now, this is the remedy people get from the devil after they have rejected God's food, health reform. They have to take snake poison. So diseases of starvation, poor sanitation, and drought are treated with poisonous material. And that is why this board calls itself Pharmacy and Poisons Board. If you read Revelation chapter 18, verse 23, the word pharmacy is mentioned in the Bible as pharmakia, and it is actually witchcraft or sorcery. These poisons will be provided when people are starving or they are getting diseases as a result of starvation and drought. Instead of being given food and water, they are given poisonous substances. And it's similar to what happened in the wilderness. Diseases of starvation and drought and poor sanitation are treated with poisonous substances. That is why this picture on your screen perfectly describes what Bill Gates is doing. This child needs food and water, not a poisonous vaccine. And that's the truth. Now, if you read from the book Counsels on Health, page 89, paragraph 1, it has the following to say. that a practice that is laying the foundation of vast amount of disease, of even more serious evils, is the free use of poisonous drugs. When attacked by disease, many will not take the trouble to search out the cause of their illness. Their chief anxiety is to rid themselves of pain and inconvenience, so they resort to patent nostrums, whose real properties they know little, or they apply to a physician for some remedy to counteract the result of their misdoing, but with no thought of making a change in their unhealthful habits. If immediate benefit is not realized, another medicine is tried and then another, thus the evil continues. And this is what is happening. There's free use of poisonous drugs. So people do not query where the disease came from so that they can address the cause. And this is what is happening in Africa. We have diseases as a result of malnutrition, as a result of drought, as a result of poor sanitation, as a result of overcrowding. But instead of water being provided, food being provided, then poisonous substances are provided instead. So this is actually what is happening in Congo. Those people have chronic stress as a result of war. So there's civil war, there's poor sanitation, there's no food, and there is no water. But then when a disease erupts as a result of those poor conditions, it is said that they require a vaccine instead of the food and the water. Now, if you read in the book MS 49, 1908, we are told drugs are poisonous. How? Councils on Diet and Food, page 301. In our sanitariums, we advocate the use of simple remedies. We discourage the use of drugs, for they poison the current of the blood. In these institutions, sensible instruction should be given how to eat, how to drink, how to dress, and how to live so that the health is preserved. So it is important in sanitariums where natural remedies are advocated that poisonous substances must not be used because they work against the system. Instead of bringing life, they bring death. And life cannot come from dead substances. It has to come from living substances. So drugs are not living, they are dead. God designed food as a living substance to sustain life and also to cure disease. So we can confirm from a 1928 experiment that the substances used as cure today, as drugs for curing certain infections today, actually can kill. They are called antibiotics because they are anti-life. So where did the first antibiotic come from? It came from a fungus called penicillium. So the antibiotics are based on this substance, which is a fungus called penicillium that killed the surrounding bacteria. So toxins from fungus are called mycotoxins. They are similar to snake poisons. They come from the same material that fungus subsist on and snakes subsist on. That is rotting, decaying biological tissues. So you find it interesting to know that the first medicine used as antibiotic was based or was developed from a mycotoxin, which is a poisonous substance. So for that same reason, the word virus in Latin means poison or venom. It is a slimy liquid, an acrid secretion, originally referred to as noxious, foul-smelling, or slimy fluid. So it has the same characteristics as snake venom or the foreign material in the private parts of the prostitute of Revelation 17. Foul-smelling, noxious, and able to cause disease. So the same words for virus are snake venom or pus. Remember, in the 19th century, pus was used as a vaccine. So the other name for a vaccine is pus, snake venom, or virus. And all these mean the same thing. They are poisonous materials. You would be shocked that the mechanism of death or disease by these viruses is by, first of all, deception, because the material is put in an attractive vial labeled with very nice colors, very nice words, and it is suggestive to boost your immunity. So that is the vial. But once the material or the virus inside that vial is injected into you, it will burn you. It will cause high fevers. The same burning we described in the fiery snakes of in the wilderness. So it's very attractive, meaning beguiling, has very nice words. The bottle is nice, easy, very smooth on the surface, very nice colors, labeled nicely, and also with very beguiling words saying that is going to boost your immunity. But once you're injected, it burns you slowly. Eventually, it destroys you. So that is the trick we have in the drug vial. So this is the fourth object that I mentioned that contains snake venom or contains dangerous material. I started by saying the first object is the head of the snake, the tail of the snake, the private parts of the prostitute of Revelation 17, and the fourth object is this vial. They use the same three mechanisms of destruction. They are deceptive, they will burn you, eventually they will cause your destruction. So for that same reason, the vial contains a vaccine, and the other name for a vaccine is virus that has the same substances as snake consumes to concentrate its venom. So it has dangerous substances such as formaldehyde, aluminium, mercury, which is very toxic, polysorbate 80, glyphosate, which is a dangerous chemical used in killing weeds, manufactured by Monsanto. And then we have dangerous antibiotics such as streptomycin, neomycin, gentamicin, which are anti-life, they kill life. And then we have dead substances such as fetal cells. So these are cells from aborted fetuses, animal products such as chicken embryonic fluid, uh, fetal bovine serum, guinea pig embryo cells, and cells from monkey kidneys. So these are dead biological tissues. The same when they are consumed by a snake, it concentrates its poison, and the snake becomes so irritable and poisonous. So imagine the same material in a vaccine. And that is why the other name for a vaccine is snake venom. It is virus and it is poison. And these are extremely dangerous materials. So the mechanism of death is the same. It is deceptive, it will burn you, it will destroy you eventually. So Jesus warns against treating people who are healthy, because vaccines are advocated among those who have not become sick, so that if they take it, it is assumed, but this is deceptive, that it will boost their immunity. It will not. So should healthy people use vaccines, or should they use living food? Jesus gives us the following admonition. In Matthew 9, verse 12, we are told that Jesus, when he heard, he said unto them, they that be whole need not a physician, but they that are sick. So healthy people don't need a doctor. Only sick people do. So it is a bad way of preventing diseases by injecting dead substances into a living body. We need to look for living food to get immunity. And Jesus says that healthy people should not go for treatment. If a healthy person goes for treatment, he will automatically become sick. Now on your screen, I want to show you very interesting pictures. And I want you to observe carefully the the image from an transmission electron microscope. The first object is the needle. It's a hypodermic needle used for injecting the vaccine or the virus. The second object is the snake's fang. The third object is the tooth of a spider. And the fourth object is the tooth, is the sting of a scorpion. So all the four objects carry poison, and they have a hollow area where the poison is conveyed. Now, these are dangerous objects. We need to learn how to hold those objects. Just like Moses was taught by God to be holding the snake by the tail. So the hypodermic needle has two ends. We have the head or the tip where the virus comes out from, the contents of the needle comes out from, and then we have the tail, which is the blunt end. Just like Moses was told to hold the snake by the tail, so you're supposed to hold the needle by the tail and move away the tip from you, which is the head, and contains the poison, and ensure that you are protected. You have protective gear so that you do not harm yourself with the poison. So this is the secret to dealing with snake venom. Hold the snake by the tail, move away the tip away from you, and then cast it away, if possible, into a bottomless pit, because that is the final resting place of the devil together with his venom. Thank you so much. Continue to like, share, and subscribe to enhance visibility of this presentation. God bless you.